All right, everybody, buckle up, because today we are diving into the wild world of SpaceX rockets
Hmm.
and something called an off-nominal deorbit burn.
Yeah.
Now, before you click away thinking this is going to be a snooze fest full of technical jargon,
Yeah.
don't worry, we got you.
We're going to break it all down, make it nice and easy. And the story itself is actually pretty wild.
Oh, it's a good one. So picture this, everybody. SpaceX launches Crew 9. Astronauts are obviously over the moon, pun intended.
Yeah.
Everything's looking perfect, textbook launch. But then, as that Crew Dragon capsule is safely on its way to the International Space Station, it's time for the rocket's second stage to make its grand exit, and that is where this whole deorbit burn thing comes into play.
Yeah, so think of it kind of like you're cruising down the highway, right? But instead of tapping the brakes, you actually got to hit the gas, fire up the engine, but to slow down and then land this thing super precisely.
Okay, so that sounds like a very delicate maneuver, to say the least.
It is.
So what exactly happened here? Did someone forget to, take out the space trash before they hit the deorbit button, or what?
Not quite.
Okay.
Although I wish it were that simple, it'd be an easier fix.
Right.
So the second stage, it's supposed to land in a very specific spot, right? In the ocean. Safe, controlled, totally routine. But this time it landed a bit out off target.
Okay, so it's like missing the landing strip, but instead of a runway, it's like a giant patch of ocean.
Exactly.
But how much margin for error is there in a deorb burn anyway?
Not a whole lot, and that's why this is kind of a big deal. The good news is the Crew Dragon, the astronauts, they were nowhere near this thing. They were long gone, safe and sound. This is all about that rocket stage. But even then, it set off this, chain reaction because SpaceX hasn't just hit pause on things to investigate. They've grounded their entire Falcon 9 fleet.
Whoa, hold on, rewind. Grounding the entire fleet, that is massive. That's like hitting the pause button on a super high-stakes video game just to figure out why your character keeps glitching through the floor.
Yeah.
I mean, you might lose some progress, but it's better than the whole game crashing.
Exactly. And this is where things get really interesting because it shows just how seriously they are taking this whole thing. This isn't just about one rocket having a slightly off day at the office. It's about understanding what happened and making sure it never, ever happens again. It's like they hit that big, giant pause button on their entire launch schedule and said, all right, team, huddle up. We got to figure this out. And this is pretty unprecedented. And it really shows just how much emphasis they put on safety, which is a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. For someone who gets anxious just thinking about, flying coach, I got to admit, this kind of commitment to safety,
Yeah.
it does make me feel a little bit better about the whole space travel thing. But when you say grounding the fleet, what does that actually mean? Are all SpaceX launches on hold right now?
You got it. Everything's on pause until they can figure out exactly what went wrong with that deorbit burn and how to prevent it from happening again. So we're talking launch delays, investigations, the whole shebang. And remember, SpaceX, they're not just launching satellites, they're sending humans into space.
Right, so the stakes are, literally astronomical.
Yeah.
But this isn't the first time a space mission has hit a snag, and it won't be the last, right? It just seems like every time we try to push the boundaries of exploration, there's always bound to be a few hiccups along the way.
Totally. Space flight, it's all about pushing the limits of what's possible. And historically, the failure rate for space launches, it hovers around 4%.
Really? 4%?
Around there.
Wow.
Which might not seem like a lot.
That's still
Yeah.
enough to make you double-check your seatbelt, even if you're just watching from Earth.
Right. That's kind of freaky.
It is. It's a good reminder, that sending things and people up into space, it's inherently risky no matter what you do.
So if these risks are basically unavoidable, what can SpaceX really do differently? I mean, how do you even begin to address that?
Well, that's where their response becomes really interesting. They're not just trying to fix a problem. They're using this as an opportunity to learn and get better. SpaceX, they're known for their transparency, even when things go wrong, which is kind of refreshing.
Yeah, it's not like they're shying away from the spotlight here. They're owning up to the mistake and taking steps to fix it. And that kind of transparency, that's pretty rare these days. Oh, it really is. Think about it. How often do you see a company, especially one as, high profile as SpaceX, openly admit when they've messed up? And they're not just saying, oops, our bad. They're grounding their entire fleet, launching a full-scale investigation, probably already working on solutions to make sure nothing like this happens again.
Yeah, it's like they're saying, we messed up, we own it, we're going to learn from it.
Yeah.
Which, in a world where everyone seems to dodge responsibility these days, is surprisingly refreshing.
Hmm.
That's got to be good for business in the long run, right? Because it builds trust, even when things go sideways.
Absolutely. And that's, it's crucial in an industry like this proactive approach, this dedication to constantly learning and improving. It's essential in maintaining trust, not just within, like, the space industry itself, but with the public, too.
Yeah, for sure. It's like you'd much rather have a pilot who admits they missed a turn and is actively course correcting
Right.
than one who just pretends everything's fine while, silently steering you into a mountain.
Exactly. And that's what's so remarkable about their response. They're not trying to sweep this under the rug. They're using it. This is a springboard for innovation and improvement. They're basically showing the world that it's okay to make mistakes as long as you learn from them and come out stronger on the other side.
Yeah, it's like they're saying, hey, space travel is hard. We're all still figuring this thing out, but we are committed to doing it right.
Yeah, and that commitment to transparency, to constantly trying to learn and evolve, that's really what sets them apart. This incident, okay, yeah, it's a setback in the short term, but it has the potential to lead to even greater safety and reliability down the road.
It's almost like a reality check. A good reminder that space exploration, it's not all like smooth sailing and interstellar selfies. I mean, there are real risks involved, and sometimes things just don't go according to plan. But it's how we respond to those challenges that really matters.
Absolutely, yeah. Acknowledging the risks, learning from mistakes, and using those lessons to kind of push the boundaries of what we think is possible, that's the key.
And that brings us right back to SpaceX's response here,
Yeah.
which has been anything but ordinary. I mean, think about it. They could easily just downplay this whole thing, swept it under the rug, hope nobody would really notice.
Right, exactly.
But they didn't. They chose to be open about it. They chose accountability. And in doing so, they haven't just taken responsibility for their actions, but they've set a really powerful example. For other companies, other industries, heck, even for us as, like, individuals.
That makes you wonder,
Yeah.
what if we all approached our own mistakes with that same kind of honesty and openness? What if we saw setbacks, not as failures, but as, like, opportunities for growth, to actually improve?
Right.
It's a powerful thought, isn't it? I mean, this whole incident with SpaceX, it highlights something much bigger than just one mission. It reminds us that progress, it's not always a straight line. Sometimes you need to take a little detour, an off-nominal detour to get back on track, but you come back stronger and wiser than before.
And on that note, we'll leave you all to ponder that a little bit. What can we learn from SpaceX's transparency here? How can we actually apply those lessons to our own lives, our work, our own pursuit of pushing boundaries, whatever those may be?
It's definitely something to think about because, at the end of the day, whether it's venturing into space or just trying something new, that willingness to learn from our mistakes, that's what really pushes us all forward.
So the next time you hear about a big SpaceX launch, or really any kind of ambitious endeavor, just remember this mission, all right? Remember how important transparency is, the power of learning from mistakes, and the audacity to keep reaching for the stars, even when things get a little
Off-nominal.
off-nominal. Exactly.
That's where the good stuff happens.
This has been a fascinating deep dive, I think, into the world of SpaceX and risk and this really incredible power of transparency. As always, thanks for joining us, everybody, and until next time, keep looking up.